Slip and fall at Dick's Sporting Goods. Who's at fault, Dick's or the Pepsi beverage company that owns the machine? Find out more below. We're here today to talk about one of your recent client victories. This is a client AH, where you were able to get a great settlement on the case. Tell us a little bit about how the accident started. What brought him to us?
This is an interesting case. This occurred down in Columbia, South Carolina. A woman was with her family on the weekend and walked into Dick's Sporting Goods. She was getting ready to check out, and she was in the line at Dick's Sporting Goods where they sell different waters and Coca-Cola and Pepsi products. She slipped on water that was coming out of the machine holding all these different drinks, and she went down, and when she went down hard.
So this isn't a case where she slipped on something another customer had spilled or anything.
No.
This is actually, she slipped on a machine malfunction that I assume hadn't been properly maintained and serviced, that sort of thing?
Yeah, defective equipment. And you bring up an interesting point, is clearly there was something wrong with the piece of equipment, and the legal question arises is, who do we go after? What responsibility does Dick's Sporting Goods have to keep their area safe for all people in the store? And what duty does Pepsi have to keep their machine in good working order?
Gotcha. So yeah, so what ultimately, who got blamed for it and who took responsibility, I guess?
We blame both. We
Okay.
made claims to both Pepsi and Dick's Sporting Goods, and we received offers from both of them.
Okay, wow. So it is a mixed question. Whose responsibility is it? We can't tell because we don't have all the documentation. So for our purposes, we just put everybody on notice, and it seems like here they couldn't figure it out either, and so they both paid.
Exactly. And they work behind the scenes with each other to figure out who's going to offer what and who's going to take what responsibility. I don't care who takes responsibility. I just want my client reimbursed for not only her medical bills, but the pain and suffering that she went through.
Right. So it's not really our job to decide which one of the two or what that percentage of recovery is. Our job is just to say, hey, you two work it out, but somebody needs to take care of our client, pay them.
Fortunately, in this case, Dick's and Pepsi worked well together.
Okay.
It doesn't always work that way. A lot of times each will point the finger at each other, and then we get into a litigation issue where we might have to go to court and fight it out. Fortunately, they both knew they did something wrong, and they worked together to reimburse our client for not just her medical expenses, but what she went through also.
All right. So it sounds like both parties did sort of the responsible thing, I guess, and said one of us needs to pay, and they sorted it out rather than us have to, or send the case to litigation and make a jury figure it out.
Correct. It took a while, and it took a lot of tracking people down and getting claims set up with the right people. I mean, you have one soda machine, one soda cooler among how many thousands of coolers throughout Dick's stores in this country. And Pepsi has to figure out how that one got there, how long it had been there, when it had been serviced, what Dick's responsibility was. So it took a while, but it worked out.
Ultimately, what were your client's injuries from this fall? Because sometimes people think a fall shouldn't be that traumatic, but then if you ever see somebody take one of these massive hits, you're like, no, it can be hugely traumatic to the body.
She had some pretty severe low back injury. She went down very hard. And if you've been to a Dick's Sporting Goods store, you know it's concrete. It's a form of concrete. And when you go down on that and your feet go out from underneath you, it's with a lot of force. And she ended up needing, after her MRI, the MRI showed a lot of problems in her back that weren't there before. She needed injections, and she ended up having to do a neuroferm to get better.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, concrete's definitely not very forgiving.
No.
And, especially when you're moving and not even thinking about falling, I guess is what I'll say.
Yeah, you don't have time to brace a fall. It's not like you're on a ski slope and you're landing on snow and you're putting your arms out. She just went down straight on her back.
Well, ultimately, were you able to get a good settlement for this client?
Yeah, she was very happy with the settlement. We got her medical bills paid, and she was able to have money for herself afterwards for what she went through.
Well, how long did it take her to recover for the most part from this fall?
It took her a while, actually. She treated for several months down in Columbia at an orthopedic. She thought she was getting better, and after we had She had completed her treatment. She called me and she said, I was walking up the steps the other day and all the pain came back. So we had to put her back in treatment with the orthopedic down in South Carolina for that additional nerve burn. And then that seemed to really help. But you have to be careful in these cases that you don't push them forward too quickly, because a lot of times if the client is treating and they do have some treatment, that treatment will wear off. And she was smart enough to call us and say, I don't feel right. And we were able to withdraw that demand from the insurance company, because we were at the point we were making a demand for settlement, and we put her back with her doctors and got her more treatment.
Well, and I think that's a critical point is, when clients have epidurals or corticosteroids or even branch blocks or any of those procedures, sometimes they don't take, and sometimes they'll resolve the pain for a little while, but then the injury flares back up and it wasn't able to be healed basically. And they need another procedure. And do you know about how long that time period was in between the procedure and she got hurt again? Not hurt again, but when the pain came back?
I want to say it was about 6 months.
Okay. Which, we tell all our clients, 4 to 6 months, that's sort of that window in there where it's going to come back. A lot of times it does. And it sounds like in this case she did. Thank goodness we were able to get her back into treatment and get her better. How is she feeling after that nerve burn?
Much better. And we waited some time after that to make sure that was going to heal her. But in that demand, I also asked for some future treatment, because just like, hair grows, you get a haircut, you got to go back in, nerves regenerate. And there might be the possibility down the road she will need that again.
Wow. And you said she was very happy with the settlement after it was all done and over with?
She was happy, yeah.
Well, great. Carrie, it sounds like you did a wonderful job. It sounds like his client was really fortunate to have you in her corner and get her a great settlement from Dick's and Pepsi. So great job there. Remember, if you're in pain, call Shane, 980-999-9999.
In pain, call Shane.
Oh, yeah.
980-999-9999. 980-999-9999. Shane Smith Law. In pain, call Shane.